Okay. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the financial impact of menopause, what leaders need to know. This session is being recorded, and you will be sent a link to the recording after, and the link will also be shared to those people that registered that aren't able to attend the live session. We hope that you'll participate in the chat, so please drop any comments or questions into the chat, and we'll do our best to pick those up as we go along and to answer them. Please keep yourself on mute and do whatever feels comfortable for you in terms of your camera on or off. It doesn't matter. I know it's lunchtime, so if you need to nibble away, please do. I'm Grady. I'm the co-founder and director of the Thrive team. We're a talent acquisition and people development company. And at the Thrive team, we do more than help you hire. We help you build a team that's engaged, resilient, and ready to grow. My background's in HR, and I've had senior roles in the NHS and the BBC. I'm an accredited coach and have been a mental health first aid instructor for 8 years. I've developed an interest in menopause in the workplace, largely due to my own experience and the lack of conversations and support that was available. So I had a hysterectomy 10 years ago when I was 42. No, not over 10 years ago. I'm sort of making myself much younger than I am. And I was immediately put onto HRT at that time. I ticked along nicely for about 10 years. But then I reached a really tricky point. I had really bad brain fog, lack of concentration, really high anxiety, loss of confidence. And so with the support of my husband and business partner, I actually made the decision to give up work. But we had not long been in business together. We're sort of navigating a pandemic, and I knew that realistically we couldn't afford to do that if I wanted to have the life that, I like to have. So I was able to see a menopause consultant. I got onto a much better HRT regime for me, accessed other support that I know I needed, and I like to think that I'm thriving now. So I'm delighted to be joined today by Victoria Shepherd of Fincoco Financial Coaching, and I'm sure she's going to share a few words about herself now.
Hi, everyone. Hello. Thank you very much for joining us. So my name is Victoria. I run Fincoco Financial Coaching, and my main goal in life is to support women to build their best financial future. So I've spent 10 years, or just over 10 years, in financial services, including time as a financial advisor. And I just felt I wasn't helping the people I needed to help in the way I needed to help them. So I set up Fincoco Financial Coaching, and the goal is really about knowledge and empowerment for mainly women. And I think the tie-in here with the menopause is that it happens to coincide with the period in life where women in particular can be facing quite a lot of challenges, whether that's children growing up and leaving, whether it's divorce, caring for elderly parents, and then throw the menopause on top of that. There are a lot of things to balance. And as we know, unfortunately, money underpins how we want to live our lives. So my role really is to support women in making informed decisions about what they want their next move to be, and how their life will look money-wise, depending on what different decisions they make.
Thanks, Victoria. So let's get into what we're going to be covering today. Well, in this session, we're going to be looking at what the menopause is and how it can affect many. We're also going to be exploring the financial impact on both businesses, but individuals as well. So we're going to get into it now because we've got a lot to cover. So let's think about the menopause and actually what it is, because I think there's a real general lack of awareness about what the menopause is, and many people, even some of those who are experiencing it, don't understand what the menopause is, and they wouldn't feel confident or comfortable talking about it. So menopause is a topic that many people are reluctant to talk about, is often avoided, ignored, and even so for menstrual health. My own experience as a younger woman was, like, absolutely wasn't talked about. It was maybe whispered conversations between the women in the family, the aunties, she's going through the change, but it was definitely not talked about publicly. And I think, through the media, through the likes of Davina McCall and perhaps Dr. Louise Newson, it is becoming much more sort of talked about. There have been documentaries, and probably pick up any publication, newspaper, and you're going to see something about the menopause these days, which is great because we need to be talking about it. So what do we mean when we talk about the menopause? Well, very simply, it is a natural biological process that's linked to changes in women's productive hormones. And whilst I will probably talk about women on this session, when I do, I'm referring to anyone who has a period or is going through menopause transition. So the pre-menopause stage is the time when a woman is having her regular menstrual cycle. It may or may not be regular, but and those are generally child bearing years, no notable signs of the menopause. The pre-menopause stage is the first stage of that menopause transition, and that's when those levels of hormones start to fluctuate and begin to change, and potentially the menstrual cycle becomes irregular. So you could possibly have symptoms of menopause, but you would still be menstruating, so your periods haven't stopped. And then we reach the point of menopause, the average of which age to start the menopause is 51. So this is the second stage of menopause, when a woman's body stops producing hormones that can cause ovulation and menstrual periods. Menopause is usually affects women between ages of 45 to 55, but it can happen earlier. We'll talk about that in a minute. Women of colour tend to go through menopause in their late 40s, so slightly earlier than average, with factors such as stress resulting from racism contributing to the earlier transition. So menopause is defined as 12 months after your last period, and you won't necessarily know it's your last period until that 12-month stage has come. So a woman may stop periods for 11 months, have a period, and then the clock starts ticking again. So it affects anyone who has periods, and menopause can happen naturally or for reasons such as surgery to remove the ovaries, which is an oophorectomy, or the uterus, a hysterectomy. Cancer treatments like chemotherapy can cause menopause, or for genetic reasons. And sometimes there are unknown reasons why somebody may go into menopause. So premature menopause, which is menopause before the age of 40, occurs in between 1% and 3% of women. And that can often be as a result of premature ovarian insufficiency or premature ovarian failure and medical treatment, I mentioned, or surgery. And then post-menopause is the third stage, and that begins 12 months after the last menstrual period. And women could spend between 30 and 50 years in that post-menopause stage, so a really significant part of their life. And it's important to remember that everyone's experience of the menopause is unique and different to them. There are no set ages, no time limits to experience the menopause transition, and symptoms for everyone will be different as well. So, who's affected by the menopause? Well, directly, as I've alluded to, in addition to women, there are other groups of people who could be affected. Transgender, people whose gender is different from the sex that they were assigned at birth. Intersex people, people who have differences in sex development, who don't conform to the typical definitions of male or female bodies. People whose gender is neither male nor female and who identify as non-binary. People who have physical disabilities may experience additional changes, and people who are neurodiverse may experience new challenges or feel their current challenges relating to sensory sensitivities, executive functioning, or emotional regulation are intensified during the menopause. And then if we think about who's affected indirectly, well, really, that's probably everyone. That's friends, family, partners, colleagues, team members, the organization as a whole. And so you may not be experiencing menopause yourself, or you may know somebody that's experienced menopause and may feel that that is a typical transition, but it probably isn't. So really important to hold on to the fact that everyone is different and everyone's experience is different. There are a huge range of symptoms of the menopause. There are, depending on which sort of source you look at, if you did a Google search of how many menopause symptoms are there, I think a typical response would be sort of about 35, but anything up to 100. And you can see from the slide that the range of different symptoms and how individuals might be affected. I think the most common is probably hot flushes. It was probably the only thing I knew about menopause before I actually entered it myself. And so that's that sudden temporary warmth in the upper body often affects the face, the chest, and neck, might result in red skin and sweating. So for businesses to maybe think about how does their uniform policy impact or their dress code impact somebody that might be experiencing hot flushes. Likewise, chills might be experienced, and again, does an employee have the ability to control their temperature of their workplace? Thinking about these practical things can be helpful. If someone's had a disrupted night's sleep, and to be honest, who doesn't? If you're experiencing the menopause or not, most of us have disrupted sleep for some reason, but people's energy levels will be affected, their mood is affected, their ability to concentrate is affected. So again, really having that understanding. And then there are other perhaps less common or less well-known symptoms that might include greater sensitivities to taste. One of my first early signs was a sort of a metallic taste in my mouth that I'd experienced. Things like itchy ears, driving anxiety, restless legs, acid reflux, dizziness, along with all of the other sort of cognitive function, brain fog, headaches, migraines that you probably heard of as well. So menopause symptoms can cause people to lose confidence in their abilities, and that can ultimately lead to stress, anxiety, depression, and other mental health concerns. The Fawcett Society produced a report, Menopause and the Workplace, and some of their key findings show that almost half of women haven't approached their GPs, and 3 in 10 have seen delays in diagnosis. Only 4 in 10 women were offered HRT in an timely fashion. Now, I don't want anyone to think that I'm advocating for HRT. Yes, it absolutely helped me, but clearly it's a personal choice. But any sort of bodily symptoms or cognitive symptoms that you might be experiencing, I think everyone would recognise supporting an individual to talk to their GP about those symptoms is a good place to start. In terms of the common menopause treatments that are available, again, I don't think there'll be anything here that people won't already have heard about or know about, but HRT you've mentioned a lot. Something that was recently introduced into the NICE guidelines, the National Institute of Clinical Health Excellence, was CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a talking therapy which helps people to reframe their thoughts. So, for example, if somebody is feeling very embarrassed because they have hot flushes, they might think everyone will notice, everyone's laughing at them. CBT, talking therapies could help. Other things like complementary therapists, herbalists, nutritionists can also be helpful. Basic sort of healthy lifestyle around getting enough exercise, eating the right things, keeping your nutrition and hydration to the right standards. And again, that will be whatever's helpful for you. And, perhaps reducing some of those things that we might enjoy a lot of in life or at key times. Alcohol, caffeine, and smoking as well. So any sort of stimulant, often cutting back on those can help as well. So let's think about menopause and the impact on employment. And I'm going to put some figures up on the screen. And if you're feeling brave enough and if your mind's working, maybe it'd be great to see in the chat what you think these numbers might mean. So the first number is 50. Anyone want to share in the chat how does this sort of relate to the menopause, do you think? It's not a test. Although it's a test to see if you're listening. What do we think? Average age, not quite, Kim. Good guess, though. Good guess, not quite. We'll come to that one. So 50 is actually the women between 50 and 64 are the fastest growing demographic in the workplace. So those experiencing menopausal symptoms could be forced to take long-term absence. And the CIPD have a guide to managing menopause at work. And the suggestion is that on average, it's 32 weeks throughout their career. So the next one, 51. For those of you that responded with the average age of menopause starting, it is 51. Okay, 67. Anyone want to guess what 67 relates to? Any thoughts? Yeah, well done, Sally. It is. It's actually the the retirement age in the UK. So you can see if a woman is starting to go through menopause transition well before 51, they reach menopause at 51, they're potentially working for a good chunk of their life following menopause. And important to note that menopause symptoms can last for many years post-menopause. I had a hysterectomy 15 years ago now, and I still have significant symptoms. And then next number, 80, is the last number to think about. Any thoughts about what 80 might relate to? Okay, in the interest of time, I'm gonna tell you. So almost 80% of menopausal women are in employment. And about 25% of those will consider leaving their jobs because they find it difficult to deal with their symptoms. And many, in fact, do leave their jobs or reduce their working hours. And we're going to see a bit later on from Victoria, the impact that that's going to come. So as these numbers demonstrate, the effect of menopause in the workplace is significant, not only to employers, but also to the individuals. But as employers, as leaders, it's really important that we don't ignore this really important topic. The number of menopause-related employment tribunal claims has more than trebled in the last 2 years. So data from HM Courts and Tribunal Service showed 64 cases cited the menopause in 2022. You might not think that's too many in the grand scheme of things, and it probably isn't as a percentage of all tribunals, but it was 204 last year. So you can see that it is really increasing. Claims included disability, sex and age discrimination, as well as constructive and unfair dismissal. And ACAS have indicated that their disability discrimination claims have been sent for conciliation have soared by 30%, and from 6,545 up to 8,496. And they now account for 1 in 4 total claims referred to ACAS. So again, some really important data to be aware of there. So the increase in disability discrimination cases referred to in the ACAS figures highlights a real rising trend in mental health problems, including menopause-related conditions such as depression, stress, anxiety, being recognised as disabilities. And perhaps that would have been much less common some time ago. And I'm sure you will have all heard about the Employment's Right Bill that is going through Parliament at the moment. It was part of Labour's one of the early things that they've started to introduce, and we think that this could also increase in menopause-related claims. The move to make unfair dismissal a day one right, combined with a requirement for organisations to publish equality plans, incorporating a commitment to supporting staff experiencing menopause, may lead to further increases. And although menopause itself is not a protected characteristic, any health condition, including the menopause or the symptoms felt during menopause, may be considered a disability under the Equality Act if symptoms have a detrimental impact on the employee's ability to carry out their role for longer than a period of 12 months. So lots to take on there. And I think I'm probably going to have to speed up a bit here. So unless organisations provide the right support for people going through the menopause, they're really going to start to lose people, individuals, which is going to be a significant loss on their skill set, then their knowledge. An estimated 14 million days are lost each year to menopause, and the average cost of replacing an employee is just over 30,000, and it takes up to 28 weeks to get somebody up to speed. So, you know, there's the cost, there's the time, there's the loss of knowledge as well. So what can we do about that? Well, you may choose to have a menopause policy or menopause guidance if you prefer, which may feel that it offers a little bit more flexibility for individuals to be treated as individuals. But if you are going to have a menopause policy, then you probably want to think about who does it cover? What are the key terms and definitions? Who's got what responsibility? There should be some risk assessment information included. You know, it will be a health and safety consideration, and it should also signpost to any tips and support that an individual can access, either within the organisation or external to the organisation. And in 2022, a poll was run, and 86% of respondents said that they would be more likely to work for a company that provided menstrual health, menopause, and pregnancy related support. So it could be a good sort of recruitment initiative to be able to publicize what you do to support people transitioning menopause. And so, you know, if all of that information wasn't enough, you know, what's the business case? Well, I think we understand that there's a moral case here. It's really important that we look after people. We look after people in our society and in our employment. But in terms of the business case, I've already mentioned some of the figures and statistics, but it's good for your organization's reputation and brand. It's good at future proofing for those that want to attract and retain a diverse workforce. It shows that you are supportive and inclusive, and it shows that you are complying with your legislative requirements as well. So we're going to run a very quick poll. I'm just going to share the poll with you, and just to get your thoughts on what your organisation does, or if you don't work within an organisation, perhaps what you know from people that you talk to. Just very quickly, 2 questions to think about there. Okay, just give me another 5 seconds for everyone to poll, and then we'll share. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now, just in the interest of time. So, can people see the results on screen? So, great that some training, some support is provided, and great also to see that there is some awareness training, but vast majority not providing any. Okay, thank you. Right, I'm going to hand over to Victoria now.
Hi everyone. So I want to kind of focus it now a little bit towards the individual. And here what we're thinking about in terms of the business is, how are you going to support those women, your colleagues, your teammates, going through this? And the real key to my work really is that money just is emotional. Like any big decision we make in our lives, the money is always going to be a big factor in that, unless maybe you've won the lottery. I'm still waiting. But what job to take, what house to buy, getting married, are you going to tie your finances, having kids, not having kids? Every decision, every big decision, every little decision, there's normally money behind it. And one of the biggest and the most scary decisions that all of us hopefully will face at some stage is, what's the retirement date? When do I pull the plug on work and go off and live that retirement that I've been working towards and building towards? And the real change for many people now, if they work outside of a government organisation, is that they are responsible for not running out of money. So your pension pot is a pension pot, and if you run out of money, you run out of money. So I'd like to just ask a quick question. If you can drop a one-word answer in the chat. Ali, if we can click on to the next one. When you think about retirement and being responsible for yourself not running out of money, what does that make you feel? What's your first emotion that comes to mind when you're thinking about living the rest of your life off what you've earned and what you've saved? Yeah. 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 So hopefully everyone's got the chat open so they can see, but most people, it's a really big worry decision. And if we think about the fact that we're all feeling that just sat here on a lunchtime, and I've only asked that question with sort of 10 seconds notice, a woman going through menopause at that point of having maybe that anxiety, struggling to be in work, not enjoying it, maybe not feeling supported, also ties in with being over 55, which is when you can access your pension pot. So the bailout button is there. You can press eject if you want to, but you're dealing with those emotions. So it's about how we support people. So if we click on to the next one, please, Ali. So 45 to 65 is the prime time for most people to pile lots of extra money into their pension. We start to think about retirement, it starts to become a bit real, maybe in a more senior role, possibly less cash going out to kids, and we're maybe a bit more money savvy, so we maybe understand the benefits of putting extra money into the pension. Just happens to tie in for women right at that point of experiencing perimenopause or menopause and those symptoms. And as Ali already said, 25% of menopausal women are cutting their working hours or even considering leaving work altogether during this period, where men are piling in money, and women should be piling in money, but they have extra barriers to that. So, quick question again, if you could just drop in the chat a number, what do you think the average percentage gap in pension wealth between men and women is at age 67? So women have all sorts of gaps we have to jump over. The pension gap is one of them. Yeah, I love this. Like, the women are straight in there. Yeah, it's 35%. So women will tend to have, on average, 35% less in their pension pot than men. But I wouldn't say that we live 35% less of life. So menopause money impacts. Thinking about a woman going through menopause, the things that are going to impact her money, her ability to save and provide for herself in the future. We've already talked about performance at work, maybe missing out on promotions because of that brain fog or the anxiety not going forwards for them, taking time off work for symptoms or reducing hours. Reduced hours, less income, less goes into your pension. Your employer pays less into your pension. And the big one is that early retirement. So is that kind of really hitting that emergency button and saying, I'm done, I can't work anymore, I need to rely on my pensions. And that's really like the big crisis point for a lot of people. So Royal London did a bit of a case study on averages. It's always great, isn't it? No one fits in the average, but the average. So what they said was a 50-year-old woman, she's earning £40,000 a year and she's already got £100,000 in her pension pot. If she's going to work all the way through to 67 and have those employer and employee pension contributions, she's probably going to have around about £355,000 at state pension age. If she drops her working hours by 50%, she's actually going to lose out on £63,000 worth of pension. And if she stopped working altogether, then we're into the six figures. She's over £125,000 down on where she would have been. And that is a considerable amount of money. That's very averagey. And what I'd like to do now is think about a person. Yeah, that's cool, Ali, if we can go on to
Sorry.
So, I'm thinking about, I see clients in this kind of position quite often. So a 50-year-old woman, so I've called her Susan. She's working full time, earning a good salary. She's got some money in her pension. She's going to get a state pension at age 68 because they're pushing that for us all a little bit further down the line. And she's planning to work till state pension age. But when she retires, she wants to have about £40,000 a year to go off and travel and enjoy life. And then she's aware that kind of in her 80s, she might reduce that down to about £30,000. So we can do a cash flow modelling exercise on this and actually see if someone's in a position to meet their goals or not. And that's what it looks like. So we can see the working and saving part of her journey. And what we can see is that by age 68, her pension pot is almost £700,000. It's a good amount. We can see she's got an active retirement phase here, and her state pension is the dark blue line, and then her workplace pension, her personal pension, is that orange, filling in the gap to her need. So if she spent, in today's terms, £40,000 for that first 10, 11 years, and then dropped it down, she would have enough money to support herself until 93, which is past the Office of National Statistics age. But, we just want to kind of build that long-term look. So she would be able to have that retirement that she wants. If, however, she is struggling at work and makes the decision to retire early, so she's stopped work at 55. So she kind of really got into that menopause and just couldn't cope. Here we see that she has got to 55 and retired. That's that nice little umbrella. And then her pension pot, which actually suddenly is only £300,000 or just less by that stage, has now got to support her entirely. So if she retires at 55 and then is like, I'm still going to have my retirement, I'm still going to go and do those adventures, the problem she has got is that come 64, she has run out of money. The red is a shortfall. It's entirely there. And her state pension still won't start until age 68. So that at 55, you might look at that and go, £300,000 seems like a lot of money, but actually it goes really quickly. And what I'd like to sort of ask everyone, and imagine they've sort of got a colleague who's saying this, is could you survive, let alone thrive, on £1,000 a month? So just a thumbs up or a thumbs down, yes or a no. Is £1,000 enough for you to live in retirement?
Definitely not for me.
So that's the state pension. The state pension is £1,000 a month. And living on the state pension alone, it is a tough place to be, and people do end up there. But unless you've got a lot of other, unless you own your house outright and you've not got any of those other bills, £1,000 a month is pretty tricky to live off. So what are the alternative options to make sure that we don't have a colleague who sort of says, I'll be fine, it will work out? So what we can do is we can sit down with people and run different scenarios. So we can have a look at what happens if you cut to 50% hours? What happens if you do 75? Could you do some of it at home and maybe keep your hours up? And for Susan, we can see that if she can find a way through various support through work and understanding the impact of reducing hours or stopping work, if she can hold on to 75% hours rather than giving up fully, she can maintain her current lifestyle and she can still meet her lifestyle plans well into her 80s. So her pension pot is actually only reduced by about £50,000 here to 643,000. And we can see her shortfall only really starts at 85. Now, the reality is we dive a lot deeper into this in terms of, okay, well, what if rather than £40,000 a year, you aimed at 35, and that would obviously drag out the length of time that things can assess. But it can give her maybe the knowledge that stopping work early is drastic, but figuring out how she can stay in work for longer, even if it's not at full time, will give her those long-term life goals that she actually wants to achieve, and certainly won't leave her sitting there on the state pension alone. So how does financial coaching help? Well, a lot of it is about the psychology of money, is those emotions, is getting over those emotions, is understanding why we respond to thoughts of retirement and money. It's about goal setting. So it's about focusing people on how they want their long-term position to look like. So the short-term pain of menopause and feeling uncomfortable at work, why is it worth finding a way through that? What's the goal? What's the positive to look forward to? And that can help keep people in work because there's a reason to stay. And then there's the standard budgeting, pensions, investments, and the cash flow planning to build that plan for people and the picture for them. So the key takeaways really that I want people to hold on to is that we're all responsible for our own financial security now. We can run out of money and the state pension isn't very much. So when you're having those conversations with women who are thinking about retiring earlier than planned, if it feels like a snap decision or if it feels like it's a decision being made from a point of stress, do they really understand it? And by allowing women to fully explore and understand the impact, you can help support them through that decision so that they're not looking back in a year, 5 years' time and wishing they'd known more. And that's really what I want you guys to have those conversations with people about.
Thanks, Victoria. I don't know about you. I mean, Victoria and I have sort of talked about this a few times now, but each time it sort of really hits me hard. And, I'm sure there are many people like me that probably got my head in the sand and, don't actually even know. But yeah, lots of reasons why we should, be caring probably for many of us on here about ourselves, but also colleagues, friends, family, etc. Okay, I'm just really conscious of the time and we may go over a few minutes. So apologies, that's my fault. I probably talked too much at the front. So if people do need to drop off, you're going to get the recording, but we won't keep you too much longer. There's only a couple more slides to carry on with. So I think really important, not just from a business point of view, but from an individual point of view, why we need to create a culture really where there are supportive menopause conversations and culture at work. And really it's about being open and inclusive. So it's normalizing those conversations about the menopause in the workplace through supportive discussions, open dialogue. We bring our whole selves to work, or I hope we do, or I hope we're encouraged to do. And as mental health first aider, we take part in the, My Whole Self campaign, because I've certainly worked. There's certainly been times in my life where I felt I couldn't share what was going on for me, and that really causes individuals a lot of distress and can become unwell. So it's about enabling people to talk about what they're experiencing, and leaders can play a really critical part in that, encouraging work-life inclusion, and it can start with role modeling those behaviors as well. So it's about being open and transparent about our own lives, sharing our own stories, showing some vulnerabilities as well, because when we bring our whole selves to work, then we give others permission to do the same. It's about creating awareness and tackling stigma, which is about acknowledging that menopause is part of normal life. Maybe you do that through your wellness blogs. Perhaps having a dedicated section on your intranet or resources to signpost to. Many organisations have employee assistance programs, and I know that they offer a variety of information around menopause as well. So maybe it's highlighting that. Perhaps it's about engaging with various awareness days or weeks that happen throughout the month around sort of menopause, and perhaps it's including reference to the menopause and menstrual health in policies and guidance. Maybe it's about signing one of the many workplace pledges that are around. So it's about creating that supportive framework that not only includes wellness programs, but also includes that financial wellness that Victoria has highlighted so much. So again, if you provide a pension in your workplace, it's about being very clear and open with pension information. It's perhaps signposting to financial advice or financial information, either within or external to the organisation. And it's about training managers to have those supportive conversations to prevent people making rash decisions. And I think part of that important conversations is managers being aware of the financial impact that it's going to have on the individual, because, not if somebody needs to leave because they feel they can't stay at work, it's not only going to have a massive impact on the business in replacing them, but also on the individual. And things like appointing menopause champions can help as well. So the Thrive team offer some training for managers, an introduction to menstruation and menopause, managers, mental health advisor, mental health first aiders, not advisors, and wellbeing champions as well. And it gives an overview of what menopause is, how to spot some of those signs, and really it's about encouraging people to have those open conversations and be inclusive. We've developed some free resources which you can download from our website. If you want to click on the link, click on the QR code, you'll be able to see that. And I think it's also important to highlight to people that actually there's lots of resources around. You'll probably recognize some of the really well-known, the CIPD, the British Standard Institute, ACAS, the NHS, to name but a few, and also for that financial information, the government website around Money Helper. So that's everything that we wanted to share with you today. But if everyone's, oh, look, we've even got a couple of minutes, actually. If everyone's got any questions, we'd be delighted to take them. And if you're not already connected to us on LinkedIn, then please do connect with us. And if you if you've got any questions that you'd like us to answer, then please do get in touch. Victoria, I think Victoria's just dropped something into the chat.
Yeah, I've just
Great,
dropped in my
some
link.
links.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not that prepared to have that already. Great. Any questions, anyone?
Oh, thanks,
Seems
everyone.
silent. Thank you. Brilliant. Well, if there are no questions, then it's been lovely to have you all on the session. I hope you found it informative, probably thought-provoking as well, whether you were thinking of it from a business point of view or from an individual point of view. We will get the recordings out to everyone in due course. May not be today. We'll get it to you as quickly as we can. And of course, if there's any questions for either Victoria and I, we'll share our contact details. Please do come back to us. But thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure and hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.